والاستفادة والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير والحث والتمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله ابتغاء مرضات الله وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. Praise our Lord Most High, the controller, the creator and the controller of all things in the universe. A praise that's worthy of a beneficent bestower of bounties, a benevolent creator and giver of favours. And we ask our Lord Most High to send copious and eternal blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. And we acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. So if we continue inshallah from where we left off last time, in the book of assistance, as we always do, go through the Arabic. قال المؤلف رحمه الله رضي الله عنه وعنكم نفعنا به وبكم. He says, وَلَيْسَ مِنَ الرِّضَى فِي شَيْءٍ مَا يَجِدُ بَعْدُ الْأَغْبِيَاءُ مِنَ الطُّمَأْنِينَةِ عِنْدَ تَرْكِ بَعْدِ الْمَأْمُورَاتِ وارتكاب بعض المحظورات فإن فعل المعاصي وترك الطاعات مما يسخط الله تعالى فكيف يرضى هو بشيء لا يرضى الله به. فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى إن تكفروا فإن الله غني عنكم ولا يرضى لعباده الكفر وإن شكرتم يرضاه لكم. وإنما رضي هذا المسكين عن نفسه وظن أنه رضى عن ربه والرضا عن الله وعن النفس بعيد أن يجتمعا في موطن واحد. وأما أحسن ما قاله الإمام الغزالي رضي الله تعالى عنه في رسالته إلى أبي الفتح الدمشقي رحمه الله سبحانه وتعالى الرضا هو أن ترضى بما يفعل الله باطنا وتفعل ما يرضاه ظاهرا. فإن أراد العبد أن يعرف ما عنده من الرضا فليلتمسه عند نزول المصائب وورود الفاقات واشتداد الأمراض فسوف يجده هناك أو يفقده. So we'll go again in the English. It's a bit long, I understand, but the two paragraphs, they're completely related to each other. So he says, such on page 125, isn't that what we're up to? Such is it 126? Thank you. Certain wealthy people neglect some duties and commit some transgressions and yet feel secure. This has nothing at all to do with contentment, for disobedience and neglect for one's duties are causes of God's wrath. Now how can one be content with that which displeases him subhanahu wa ta'ala? And he says in the verse, if you are ungrateful, God is independent of you, and he is not pleased with ingratitude in his servants. But if you are thankful, he approves of it for you. And such wretched people are pleased only with themselves, but think they are pleased with their Lord. Being pleased with oneself and being pleased with one's Lord are far apart and never unite in the same place. How excellent is that which Imam Ghazali, may God be pleased with him, wrote to Abu Fath al-Damashqi, may Allah have mercy on him. Contentment is to be content inwardly with God's acts and outwardly to do what pleases him. Should a servant wish to know how much contentment he has, then let him search for it when hardships arrive, afflictions descend, and sicknesses become severe. For in these circumstances, he will either find it or not. So now when we look at what the Imam's telling us in terms of the state of contentment of an individual, in other words, how a person, in particular a seeker, one who's striving to get some sort of enlightenment spiritually in this world, in this ephemeral and material world in which we live in, the dunya. How can a person get that? Is only through the tanmiyah, or the nourishment, or the feeding of one's soul. And these different circumstances that the Imam's speaking about in the book, at the moment, it's contentment, these are actually the things that feed one's soul. And when one's soul is satiated, which this is the funny thing about the feelings that are attached to the nafs, the ego, and the feelings that are attached, if you want to call them that, the feelings that are attached, the stations, the maqamat, the contentment, the states that are attached to the soul. So the feelings that are attached to the body are the 5 senses that we have. Can anyone ever remember being completely satiated, in other words, completely content in one of their senses? Looked at something and you were completely content and never need to look at anything else anymore. Tasted something and you said, that's it, take me now, I've tasted the best thing ever, I'm not going to taste. What about hearing, heard something and said, well, that's the best thing I've ever heard, I don't need any more. Felt something and said, that's the best feeling ever. So that's the major difference in terms of the person who's seeking Allah and the person who thinks they're seeking Allah. Because how many times we hear that, I don't feel like it. Oh, I don't feel like praying. Oh, I don't feel like fasting. I don't feel... So when people are saying that, they're talking about the feelings that are attached to the ego, the senses. Those 5 senses are there in essence to allow us to survive. And in reality, they should be leading us to God, to Allah. Because the things we look at, they should remind us of Allah. The things we hear, they should remind us of Allah. The things that we taste, etc., they should remind us of the Creator, the one who gave us the favor, who's behind those things. So, ultimately, contentment can never be found in those ephemeral senses. It's impossible. Because not only that, even when a person reaches the epitome or the ecstasy of whatever sense it is, people going out, having a good time, whatever. What happens when they're taking whatever they're taking and they're doing whatever they're doing? What happens the next day?
Want more.
They want more because why? They've plummeted, right? There's the ups and the downs. And so that's the thing with the senses. When you eat something nice, you still want to eat more of it. Even though the stomach's full, the sense, that's it. Still has that desire. That's in terms of the senses of the body, in other words, the senses of the ego. But when it comes to the sense of the soul, when you heard that, for example, like Shaykh Abdul Basit or one of these mashayikh, one of these scholars reciting the Qur'an or a nice adhan or whatever it is, how does that make one feel? It's contentment. Because why? It's tamiyat al-ruh. It's the actual soul we're getting nourished. And that is eternal. It's permanent. It doesn't finish. It keeps on going forever and ever and ever. So we get that feeling, if you like, use of a better word, but so we get the understanding of what we're talking about. Because that's what we rely on all the time. It's how we feel about a particular thing that decides whether we do it. And so if we're just relying on those sensory feelings then that are attached to the ego, then what are we really following? Right? Which is our ego. We're really following our ego. Yeah? No? Does that make sense? Yep. Does that make everyone get it?
Yep.
So that's what the Imam's talking about. Saying that some people, they follow certain aspects of the prescribed sacred law and they don't follow others, yet they feel safe. They feel like they've done everything. They feel like that's it. I've made it. What does he say? Certain wealthy people in particular, he says, neglect some duties and commit some they feel secure. So that's not what the Imam saying. That's not where the contentment lies. The contentment doesn't lie in, and that's what he goes on, is self-satisfaction. Actually, what he's saying is self-satisfaction and contentment in Allah or with Allah, those two things are mutually exclusive. In other words, you can't have both of them in one's heart. One can't be so, yeah, I'm alright, alhamdulillah, today was Jummah, I read Kahf, I read, the chapter of the cave in the Qur'an, I did everything, and I went and I did my salawat, sent my salutations upon the Prophet after the Asr, and I did everything right, and I'm perfect, and I'm sweet. That's not contentment with Allah. That's contentment with one's ego. And as the Imam said, that's just a person who's deluded. Whereas if a person has contentment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Like Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, he's one of the Sahaba, one of the companions. He's a serious companion. He says that the Prophet said about him, ﷺ, that he lives alone, he dies alone, but on the Day of Judgment, he gets resurrected as a whole nation, as an ummah. That's his station with Allah. So he said that I much prefer poverty over wealth and sickness over health. That's his statement. And then Sayyidina al-Hussein ibn Ali, anhu, he heard the statement. And he said, the true person, he says, Rahimallah Abu Dhar. May Allah have mercy on Abu Dhar. It's a great statement that he said. He said, the person who's truly content is happy or prefers the order of Allah, whatever that may be. In other words, whatever Allah's decreed, that's the preference, and they're content with that. And that's the state. That's the condition. If you like, that's the station. If you like, that's the feeling. Because maybe we should redefine, they used to call them ahwal and maqamat, which ahwal means the state that a person's in, and then the maqam is the station where they're firm. We just change to feelings. And then just flusters, feelings and flusters, crushes. Someone's got a crush on someone. Someone was explaining it the other day. I got a crush on, I want to go and do this because so-and-so is there. I was like, man, so-and-so is like a kid compared to you. This really happened, true story. So-and-so is like a kid compared to you. Oh yeah, but it's just a crush that I've got. To me, it doesn't make sense. I said, if you want to have a crush, make an imaginary crush. Someone who's an imaginary. If you need to have a crush in your life, have an imaginary one. Make someone up, then inshallah that person will come to fruition if Allah decides for that to be the case. Right? So that's the state. It's always about our feelings and about how we want to be. So if we don't have that contentment to accept whatever has been decreed for us in our lives, irrespective of what emotion or feeling we place on it, then we won't ever be happy, as we said last week. We'll never reach the stage of happiness because if we're relying on those five senses, they always need more. They don't get. There's no contentment in the five senses. It's an up and down and up and down and up and down. And when you watch a movie, everyone watches movies, you don't want it to end. Isn't that right? When did you watch a movie? Let's say it was a bad movie, I suppose. You think, or you watch something that you want to watch on one of the, whatever it is, and then it finishes and you watch something you don't want to watch just because you still want the feeling that you had from the first thing you watched, first program or show or whatever it is that you watched. Just because, you want that feeling. But you can't get it. It's temporary because it's attached to this world. But the feeling of the soul, when it connects to, as we said, that the soul is from where? Right, it's from Allah, and it's nourished from that which comes from Allah only. So that's what the Imam is talking about when it comes to those couple of paragraphs that we read. And he says, if you are ungrateful, God is independent of you, and He is not pleased with ingratitude in His servants. But if you are thankful, He approves of it for you. So like some people always ask that question, how come there are disbelievers on earth? And they say, because they chose it. It's a choice. Everyone in life has a choice. Everyone in life is presented with sets of information that comes to them, and they've got to process that information that comes to them and come out with a resolution or a determination or an answer to that information that's pleasing to themselves in terms of contentment rather than just the sensory perception of a feeling, and really which pleases Allah. But Allah, He doesn't want لا يرضى لعباده الكفر. He doesn't want His creation to disbelieve, to reject Him. He doesn't want that. But it's the choice that everyone faces in life. So when we get asked that question, everyone's got a choice to make. Then you always what's the follow-up question? What if someone doesn't know about Islam? What if someone doesn't know about God? Well, Abu Hanifa, he says, the great Imam, he says that left to their own devices, a human being with a sound intellect will come to the conclusion that God exists. Any person with sound intellect will come to the conclusion that, because things are too amazing. The earth, the way it works, the world, our own bodies, everything that we see and feel and hear and around us points to the existence of God. So anyone with a sound mind who isn't, deranged or mentally ill or whatever the case might be, will come to the conclusion that God exists. And they're called al-Fitra, the people of innate being, innate disposition. So if someone never receives the message, then of course, Allah on the day, there's different things the scholars say, but one of the most popular ones is that on the Day of Judgment they'll be asked by Allah to make a choice and they choose what they want then. But it's a choice. Still it's a choice. So that's and it's not just a choice to accept Islam or to accept God or whatever. It's a choice for the one who has already accepted what they want to do with their lives and what actions they want to do and how they want to live their life and what state they want to be in and what feelings they want to have. All those things are choices for the majority of people. So Imam al-Ghazali said that contentment is to be content inwardly with God's acts and outwardly to do what pleases Him. So that's what we're talking about. So it's not a scenario. And Rabi al-Adawiyya, she's a famous saint. What does she say? They asked her, what is contentment? And she said, contentment is that if a person is afflicted or a person is blessed with a bounty, the person feels the same about both of them. Does that make sense? So the feeling of the person who lives in contentment of Allah doesn't change whether the affliction, whether they're afflicted or given a bounty. In other words, they're content with the order of Allah. Does that mean they want to be sick? No. Does that mean if they get sick they don't go to the doctor? No. It means that they go and take care of those things. The difference being that the decree has come from Allah and that person loves Allah and that person relies on Allah. Tawakkul ala Allah. Yuhibbullah. So they're happy with whatever decree that Allah has sent. That's what the essence of rida is about, the essence of contentment. That whatever the decree is, a person is satisfied internally with that decree, as Imam Ghazali says, and externally, the person does what they need to do. Go to the doctor, go to work, get married, whatever, drive a car, buy a car, get a license, whatever it might be, study for the exam. He said, should a servant wish to know how much contentment he has, then let him search for it when hardships arrive, afflictions descend, and sicknesses become severe. For in these circumstances he will either find it or not. So Arabic's a little bit different, it's a bit more clear. So it's a question in a sense, it's a postulation. Imam al-Haddad is posing to us a question. Should a believer, should a seeker want to know whether they truly have the state of contentment, whether contentment is truly their condition, then they should search for it. In other words, to search for their contentment. Do I have contentment or not? When afflictions descend. Because if I'm unhappy with that decree of Allah, then what does that mean? Am I contented or not? Right? Or sickness becomes bad. If a person doesn't like it, not saying that we enjoy the sickness, that's not the case. It's saying that this sickness is the best thing for me. It's the most perfect thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can send for me. It's the best timing for this sickness is this thing to occur now, right now. Right? And anyway, that was a question from last week, right? Oh, how should we feel about, what can we do about it anyway? That's the thing we don't like. We don't like to be told what to do because we're Westerners and we're democratic and it's individualistic society and I've got power and I can make things happen. I've got control. I can turn the lights on, make it dark. I can make it light. So no one can tell me what to do. But in reality, if God sends someone, Allah sends someone sickness, what can they do about it? Nothing. So being discontented with that decree, what's it going to do? Probably make the sickness worse, yeah, more than likely, right? But what's it going to do? What's to change the sickness? Nothing. Like you said, it'd probably make it worse, more than likely. So, I didn't mention that last week because we don't like hearing those things. We don't like being told what to do. You know, even when, every time something happens anywhere, there's a million people or however many commenting on social media that they don't like that thing. You can't do anything that people are happy with these days. Everyone's always got to complain about something. Even when it's giving money to, for example, helping poor people, like those poor blokes that got trapped in the cave, then all the comments were like, oh, what about the people in this country that are suffering? Oh, all right, people are suffering in that country. But these poor boys, they're stuck there too. You know what I mean? Like, with me, no one's happy. No one, that contentment doesn't, it's not there. Because when Allah don't want to accept the decree. We don't want to be told that that's the thing that can be done. We always want to defer the attention to something else because we believe we've got power. That's what we believe. We believe we can affect change. We believe in the cause and effect because of the lifestyle that we live in, the society in which we live in, the pervasive ideologies, you know, that kind of mould who we are as human beings in the first world. So that's the key. It says, وَكَثِيرًا مَا تَسْمَعْ من سفلة أبناء الزمان عندما يقال لهم ما لكم تتركون الطاعات وتفعلون المحرمات فيقولون هذا شيء قد قضاه الله علينا وقدره ولا محيص لنا عنه وإنما نحن عبيد مكروهون فهذا هو المذهب الجبرية. So he says that, so this particular paragraph, it's specific to the time of Imam Haddad, which was about 330 odd years ago. He says, one frequently hears the villains of today replying when asked about why they abandoned obedience and committed transgressions. This is something that they say, this is something which God has predestined us to do. We cannot avoid it. And we are but subjugated slaves. This is fatalistic or Jabariya outlook. This is the fatalistic or Jabariya outlook. He's got a footnote there at 77. He says the Jabariya were fatalists who held that man has no free will. So that's what we're just talking about now, that all of us have a choice to do whatever it is that we want to do. And just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed something upon us, it doesn't mean that we can't, it doesn't mean that we don't have a choice. So how does that work? We don't know what Allah has decreed on us. Right? Does anyone know what Allah has decreed before them? It's impossible to know that. One might have a bit of intuition about it, or but no one can really know. So we might say that Allah has decreed, but if we don't know that it's been decreed upon us, how can we say that it has been decreed upon us? And the way that it works is that we believe that Allah is the creator. Yeah? Some of us, right? We believe Allah is the creator. Right? So for Allah to be, for the thing called Allah to be a creator, what does this thing have to have? To create, right? Absolute knowledge. It's impossible for the being called Allah, right, to create what's been created without absolute knowledge of all things, from the most microscopic, I know they're smaller than that, detail, up to the biggest, the cosmos and whatever else is out there. It's impossible, because what would happen? Things would bump into each other. If it wasn't perfect from the beginning, it doesn't work. Things start, look at your car, look at your computer. After a while, one part goes off because it's not made all together. Someone from different parts puts it together, and eventually, watches and whatever else, nothing really lasts a very long time anymore. Whereas the old things, when one clockmaker, one shoemaker, one carpenter made the whole thing, things used to last a lot more. They used to last a lot longer, because one person, they made it, they looked at the design, they fixed the design from before, they made it in a particular way, and that's why those things are super expensive. You know how much a handmade pair of shoes costs? And the rest, about $1,500, $2,000. And you can go here down the road and pick up a pair of shoes, $15. But what's the difference? Heaps of difference, right? But so going back to the point, for Allah to be the creator, Allah had to know what's to come and how it works and how it fits. The master designer, the engineer, if the engineer doesn't know how the bricks and the cement and the metal and whatever else fit together, right? Then and the amounts and the strengths and the weights and how much weight's going to be on it and how much weight's going to be under it and how much. One time they built this bridge in the United States across this river. It's a black and white, you can see, and they didn't calculate for the wind, and so the bridge, it was like that, it was dancing until it fell apart. It's a famous thing. Tacoma. Yeah, it's in Tacoma in Washington in western United States. You can see it on black and white videos, you know.
The atoms in the actual bridge, they're moving at the same frequency as the wind.
So imagine, if that's on a bridge, imagine the universe, what would happen? Imagine gravity, the way it works. Imagine our own bodies, right? If there was the bacteria that's inside your stomach, if it turned against you, you'd die. They say there's one bacteria in your stomach for each cell in your body. And if the problem happens, they say, that's what the Prophet said, al-Batn darud da, alayhi salatu wassalam, he said that the stomach, or more particularly the colon, is the house of sickness or the house of illness. Because if the stomach bacteria you've got, not your actual stomach, but the bacteria in your stomach is healthy, you're pretty much going to be healthy. If it's unhealthy, you're pretty much going to be unhealthy. So if all didn't have that perfect balance, none of us would have survived however many million years, whatever they say we've been on Earth, whatever it might be. Or the sun was too strong, too powerful, too magnetic, not magnetic enough, not whatever the case might be. All the little intricate trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of details. So that being the case, when we say, so we get in the picture about the decree of Allah, of course He knows what we're going to do, right? And if Allah is the creator and the all-knower, right? How are all these things going to work together if He's not the ultimate controller? It's not going to happen. So Allah didn't just create things and leave them, just let them fly into orbit and say, oh, you'll be right, mate, no worries. Allah controls those things, maintains them. So that applies to our choices that we have as well. So Allah Azza wa Jal, for us to make a choice, for us to make an action, it needs a divine decree. Does that make sense? So once upon a time, Allah wrote with the qalam, on the lawh al-mahfuz, on the pen on the protected tablet, that you were going to lift your finger. Yeah? That's not from my own movement. It's because Allah has decreed it. Because I don't have the power to move my finger. If it wasn't for all the different things we discussed, including the way my body's working, I wouldn't be able to lift my finger. But Allah knew I was going to lift my finger, and that was a choice I made. Allah knew I was going to make that choice, so He decreed for that to happen. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that? Yeah.
So you know how you're saying we have choices, but then you're saying we don't have control over anything. In terms of choices, we don't really have a choice. Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So the question is, if someone's sick and they take the medicine, that's a choice. They may or may not get better. If someone's sick and they don't take the medicine, they may or may not get better. That's because ultimately, cure is in the hands of God. Because if cure was in the hands of the medicine, then whoever took the medicine would get better. But not whoever takes the medicine gets better. You with me? So it's coming at it from this way, if you like, according to your question. Because the decree of whether we're going to get better anyway, if Allah's decreed that. But Allah may have decreed that we'll only get better if we take that medicine as well, but we don't know that. So that's why we do what we need to do. So Allah's decree may have been, in your question, that yes, so-and-so is going to get better, but they need to take habbat al-barakah, the black seed, for example. Once they take the black seed, Allah is going to decree that they're going to get better. But they don't take the black seed, and they haven't followed the decree. That's why we always take with the asbab. We always do what we need to do. If we've got a test, we study. You know, if we want to lose weight, we eat less and exercise more. If we want to memorize the Qur'an, you actually have to memorize the Qur'an, right? So you're sick, we always go and take the medicine. You can choose not to if you don't want to, but taking with the causes is what Allah wants us to do, because that's the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And that's what the Imam just mentioned in that little chapter beforehand. He says, well, Imam Ghazali, he says that contentment is to be content inwardly with God's acts and outwardly to do what pleases Him. So that's the outward action, right? If the Allah says, oh, in honey there is shifa, which is what, cure, take the honey. Allah's told you there's cure in the honey, so take the honey. If the Prophet said that the black seed, the black cumin or whatever it is it kills all the diseases except death, then why wouldn't you take? Because it's actually worshipping Allah when we take through those asbab, those causes, if you like. Yeah, someone else had a question.
Well, what about in terms of deeds, like in terms of good and bad, but if you're not supposed to do something, then like how does that work? I don't really know.
So the question is, Afwan, along the lines of, what about evil? Does evil exist in and of itself? Who can answer that question? No, you hush, let someone else answer it. Does evil exist in and of itself? No. What do you reckon? What do you think? I don't know. What do you reckon?
Evil can't exist without creating.
What's that?
Evil can't exist.
Right. What else? Who disagrees with that? Who agrees with that? Some of you don't know. It's okay. It's good not to know. Students are not supposed to know. Right? So of course evil, nothing in the universe, in the cosmos, in existence can be without Allah's decree. Okay? So if a person has made an intention to do something evil, Allah knew that 50,000 years before anything was created. Yeah? That's square there? We're good there? Right? So, in order for us to have our free will, Allah puts things in place for our free will to be expressed or manifested, if you like. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. Right? If I wanted to do good and Allah didn't want me to do good, then He'd say, no, not happening. And then I'd be like, well, what am I doing on this earth? Yeah? And it's the same for evil deeds. If I want to do an evil deed, it's up to me. It's up to me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, because I've given you the chance to go to earth and prove yourself to me, I will also allow you to do what it is that you want to do in terms of our choices. You can't choose to fly. That'd be nice. Save a lot on fuel, rego, licenses, all those things, insurance. Okay, but it's not going to happen. But you have those choices. So it's not complete free will to do whatever you want, but it's free will to make that choice that you have to do either good or to do bad. La samahullah. Does that clear it up? Have you got more questions? You look like you got something else to say.
No.
Are you sure? Trying to process it? One second.
I had something that was suggested by someone else.
Tfaddal.
So the human being has a limited will. Allah is the. So that's how it works.
Yep, that's a good way. That's another way of saying it. Hopefully that helped someone out there. So, tfaddala.
I was just going to make a statement in terms of...
It's good. If you don't understand, it's good because this is like the fundamental crux of what we're doing on earth. And if we don't get it, because we're not understanding it, then we ask the questions so we can, because it's really important. Naam.
I was going to say, I think it's just a hard concept to completely understand, because even though we have choices, we do have those choices, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows what our choices are.
Of course.
So, I think it's a higher order kind of thinking and understanding.
It totally is.
Yeah.
It totally is. Naam.
So going back to that example, when you say that Allah decreed it, but we have the choice to do it by decree, do you mean Allah gave His permission for it to happen?
Yeah, so decree means, like that's what it means. He gave His permission for it to happen. But what does it mean in reality? It means like whatever my muscles are working in my brain cells and whatever neuron and whatever's going on to make the muscle go, and the world's not flying, because if the world was flying out of control, I wouldn't be able to move my finger because, it'd be going like that. You with me? So the earth, the gravity, whatever else, the whole shebang and shemazel, the whole thing is working in a perfect order. So I can do that basically, if you want to kind of look at it in a simplified way, so that could happen, right? The air, otherwise if I couldn't breathe the air, I wouldn't be able to do it, and muscles, oxygen going to the blood, and what I don't even understand it all, but that's the kind of thing that it is. So Allah knew that, because He had to know that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He's the creator. Yeah? And so He knows it up in the, in the mala, in the lawh, whatever, in the secret spot. But we don't know that. So Allah has decreed it for me so that I can be judged on it. Really, that's what the whole basis of it is. So I can be judged. So when Allah says, well, I gave you faculties and I gave you this, and the whole world, the universe was working in that perfect way, and you went and did either bad, la samah Allah, la qaddar Allah, or you did good. So now I'm going to judge you for it. That's the whole deal. Right? Someone else was going to have a hand up or something? No. Sorry, Hush.
It's a little bit more abstract and it's less about morality, but it's sort of in terms of what comes first, in terms of creating, he will probably make this choice and therefore I will decree that he makes that choice. Do you see that?
Yeah.
There's sort of dichotomy I'm working
Yeah. There's no probably in it though. God knows, no doubt, whatever the case might be about you. Because He's the creator. Like, for example, Apple, they're hopeless when you take it to the genius bar. They're useless completely. But as an example, you have an Apple machine, phone, whatever it is. I've been a couple of times. I've never ever had them once ever resolve any problem I've ever had. Whoever's out there listening in Apple land, rubbish. Is that what it is? Genius? Sorry, yeah, genius, my left foot, right? So, totally useless. But the point being is that they make the phone, they make the contraption, the tool, whatever it is, the implement, the equipment. So they really should know, even though they don't. They're supposed to know what the deal is with it, with the whole thing. And Asghar was there. He was with me when we went. We wasted like 2 hours, and they just had no idea. Anyway, right? So because they're the ones who manufactured it. Right, it's probably a better example with cars. You know, when you take your cars are much better for whatever reason. I don't know why, but you take your car to the dealership, that whatever make of car it is, you take them to that dealership, and they got the books, they got everything. They even know that because they tested or whatever, that the fan belt goes at 30,000 kilometers and the drivetrain goes at 150. So they get you to change it beforehand because they manufactured it. They know how it responds to certain things and certain stimuli and whatever else it might be. So the same with Allah. Like what you're talking about is a general thing, but it's specific to you as an individual as well. So Allah knows every single soul that He created, and every single ego that's been put inside those souls, and every single body which contains those egos and those souls and those intellects, and everything which is humongous for us. Every single one of us is an individual to Allah, to God. Every single one of us. So He knows both ways, and that the choice is ours. Even though you may have wanted pizza as an example, you might have walked past the kebab shop, smelt the kebab and said, I'm having a kebab. Allah would have known that. Or God would have known that. So the knowing is always His to know and His to decide. The decree is for us. It's Him. That's the lutf of Allah, if you like, the gentleness of Allah in that way. To say, look, you make your choices, and then later on when you come back, I'll judge you on that choice, if that clears it up a little bit for you. Forgot.
A few years ago, more than a few years ago, I think it's what's been ordained for you.
MashaAllah. So there's all, because as Tom said, it's abstract, right? It's esoteric, metaphysical, whatever you want to call it. It's like, philosophical. It's a bit all up in the air, But it's important to know as much as you can know and understand as much as you can understand about that. Because, like Imam said, we're not forced to do it. Allah doesn't force us to do it. What Allah does out of the generous, and that's just the theory. We got that? Please ask questions about it if you don't. Because I don't want anyone to leave confused or in doubt. So from the lutf, the gentleness of Allah, if we want to do something bad, He puts things in our way to stop us, right? And He want to do something good, He makes our life easier so we can do good. Because as He says, as the verse said, doesn't want us to disbelieve. God doesn't want us to do bad. But if we want to do bad, then we'll do it. And if you ever remember wanting to steal, lie, cheat, whatever you did badly in your life, the very first time, as the example goes, the first time someone steals, they're extraordinarily cautious, they plan everything properly, they're shaking, their face is red, they're breathing heavy, they're sweating, they're doing all these things because it's a sign from God saying, I don't want you to do that. But that person, they want to do it. Then after the 50th time, after the 100th time, the heartbeat doesn't even people can beat those lie detector tests because they're just so used to being the compulsive liars, or other people go to it. No.
Does Allah create the want, or do we generate it somehow?
It depends on what the want is innate for us. Allah created that innately. That's why Imam Abu Hanifa says that innately we're created to know Allah. That's an innate state that we're in. Because why did Allah create us? Right? To know Him. So it's innately created within us, but it's the things we do, the way we think, the way we live our lives, that either takes us closer to Allah or gets us further away from Allah. If that makes sense. Yeah? Alright, any other questions about any of those things? That's enough for today, inshallah ta'ala. Any other questions about that? Or anything else? So, the main thing to take away, contentment with Allah is eternal. It's an eternal feeling of happiness. Being happy with whatever's in the world is temporary. Because look, whatever, isn't it 10, iPhone 10, we're picking on iPhone now. Tomorrow they're going to bring out 11 or 11S, 10S or whatever they're going to bring out. They're going to bring out something, and then you're happy with what you've got, and then after a while you're like, oh no, I want something else. I want something better. It's not. So that's what you know. That's what the world. That's what the affairs of this world are. Doesn't mean to have nice things. Have nice things if you've got the money, and you're not stealing and you know doing things haram to get it. It's fine. No problem. But don't have the attachment to those things, and don't. Which is the worst of the worst. Rate yourself as a human being by the things that you have, or by your complexion, or by the way you look, or by the way you dress, or by the job that you have, or by the number of friends you have on certain social media platform. No, that's not the thing that we rate ourselves with. The rating is the rida of Allah. That's the rating that we have for ourselves as believers.
So in that case, better or not, it's just do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with.
That's what Imam was saying. Inwardly, we're like, oh, Allah, I'm sick, I'm happy with that. And the real one is, Allah, you've decreed that anyway, so there's nothing like that. That's why rida is really hard for us to contemplate. Because, in other words, contentment, because we want what we want. I don't know about Allah. He's all right. He's Ghafur Rahim. Don't worry. He's cool. He's off forgiving, most merciful. He'll get over it. That's the approach that we have with Allah. He'll get over it. Don't worry. He's big and he's all powerful and all these things. What is he worried about me for? Of course he's worried about you. He created you. Of course he's worried about you. He wants you to be close to him as possible. That's how he is. Like the loving father or mother or whatever. Yeah, the Rahman. No.
Do you think it's harder for us as like Westerners?
It is. Everything's harder for us. When it comes to spirituality, everything's harder for us because we just live in this world and we can do whatever. Someone introduced me to Uber Eats. I got shocked. I'm like a million years behind the program, They're like, what? $5 extra? And they bring it. I was like, nah, you can't. They show me on the app. I'm like, wow, that's pretty. For a man who likes food, that's a big problem. That's going to be problematic, man. Make all the takeaway places happy. You don't have to leave home anymore. And it's not like in the old days, like to get fast food, you have to drive like 20 minutes, half an hour. It's like down the road, but you just couldn't be bothered leaving because you haven't really got anything that great on, but you just don't want to leave. So you just app the whole thing. It's pretty awesome, like I said, for a person who loves food. Just do the thing and go to the shop, pick your things, and that's it. They even tell you how long it's going to be till they get there, which for a man who likes food really is, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. Tell them not only what food is coming, but what time it's going to be there. That's perfect. So I need to, alhamdulillah, I didn't download it because I don't think it's good for me. But why would I worry about spirituality if I got that? And I heard you can even get them to pick up stuff for you. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right? Just say yes and then tell them. That's what I heard. You can get them to do anything. What kind of a world is that? Before you get a taxi, when I was in the city, we had to send, as a lawyer, wanted to send a document out to the suburbs and with couriers that hadn't taken unless you took it before this time. We get a taxi, pay a full 100 on whatever, this is going back 15 years, 100 and whatever it is dollars to the taxi driver, and you got to give him a tip because he's got to leave his taxi and whatever. It used to cost back then like $150. Now, what, Uber takes it for basically nothing. What a world. Of course, people who are removed from difficulties and who are removed from hardship and who live only in their wants, how's spirituality going to form for people like that? And then not only that, what do we hear? Capitalism, and even our government, they give these subsidies to these massive companies who never pay any tax, right? And then here we are struggling and we're all paying tax and so we live in, that's the pervasive element of our society, and we never go without. When you never go without, where's that connection going to be to the Creator? When like you can get a watermelon and mango if you want, if you go to Woolies, and it's like the middle of winter. Actually, today is probably the exact middle of winter. You can get whatever fruit from whatever part of the world you want. Probably you can Uber it and they'll bring it to you from wherever, you know. So people who live like that, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't live like that. If you can, you know, do it, it's great. All we're doing is promoting these massive companies that don't do anything, really. That's another sign of the times. These companies don't own anything. They don't pay any superannuation. There's no workers' compensation. There's no nothing. They're just, basically people are just slaves, using their own cars to deliver things for basically nothing. And these people don't own anything. They make these huge profits. You know, they don't actually have they don't own any infrastructure whatsoever, basically except the apps, the computers, up in the digital world there. So, of course it's hard for us. That's why for us we should concentrate on our needs rather than our wants. That's what, if we could keep doing that, then it's easier for us to, you know, to build that spirituality, watch what goes into our stomachs and all the other things that the Imam's been talking about. But it's very difficult for us. Very difficult for us. Imagine if you had $10,000, right? You had $10,000 and then you said to someone, I'm going to give that $10,000 away. What would they say to you? Not like you're really, you know, the real pious, but the majority of people, or 100,000, or 1 million. They say, well, have you got 20 million? I've only got 1 million. I want to give the whole 1 million away to help people. What's the matter with this person? What about if you were walking on the street, not about that, and you picked up rubbish and put it in the bin? Yeah, like you picked up something, or a tack, or a glass, or something on the street. As this, that million example, inshallah we all have that problem. $1 million we want to give away. But don't even go that far. Yeah? Or imagine that it was raining and you gave your umbrella to somebody. Like these are the types of things they put on, whatever, you know, like social media saying, wow, it's like a miracle, you know, like this person's a saint. Why? Because it doesn't happen. You know, or someone like they have the ones that people save animals and do. It's not part of who we are because it's not about helping. It's not about being altruistic. It's not about living for other than oneself in the society, Western world. It's all about me, myself, Haisam Farache. It's what it's all about. And so, of course, if it's all about me, it's not going to be about Allah. It's not about anything else. So that's the struggle that we have. And the way to overcome that is to understand it firstly, and to live in a state of gratitude to Allah. Rida being the head of that thing, the contentment with what Allah's given us. Because like we said, remember we spoke about 2 weeks ago that our issue is we're always not happy with what Allah decreed. Oh, why is it like this? Oh, what about me? Oh, I'm a good person. I do this. And that's because our egos are out of control because of the way we live. All good? That's a pet point of mine, so you can ask me about it any time you want. You know, that's the society we live in, and we have to understand it to be able to be successful in it. I don't like this whole shying away from it and pretending, no, it's not the case, and no, we're not affected by it. That's, in my view, that's just being naive. That's not the reality. In my view, Allah knows better. So, if that's how it is, we have to see how the reality of it, and we don't have to hate it either. Why should we hate Uber and iPhones? So you can hate Apple, that's all right. But whatever else it is, you know, and why should we hate that thing? Look, I was thinking about it, subhanAllah, when I saw that Uber thing, how the old scholars used to eat back in the day. They used to get the grain and just eat the grain because they had no time to eat. They didn't want to waste their time. So I was trying to equate it, justify it to myself, you know. That could be a good thing. So these people were already Ubering it that many, 1,000 years ago because they didn't want to waste time. So it's not that we hate the internet. It's not that we hate these things. That's not the right attitude either. That's not. Learn what it is. Learn the good qualities of it. Learn the bad qualities of it. Use it positively. Like one brother asked me, "Oh, hey, we said one of the Mashiach, this happened." They said, "How do you keep up?" I said, "Facebook." Like, are you real? Are you for real? Yeah, of course. All the sheikhs, all their stuff. I was on Facebook. Well, but then you got to be smart about what you put on your feed. Don't put rubbish on there. Put good stuff. And if you select something that you think is good, and then later on there's bad stuff, get rid of it. Because the bad stuff is tempting. Another thing is, limit the time you have on social media. So it's not like I'm going to sit there and just swipe for hours and hours and hours and hours. So, all right, I'm going to be on there for, what's reasonable? Is that reasonable? Oh, what do you mean half? All right, half an hour, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, whatever you can spare in that. And that's it. After that, I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to do something useful with my life, like sleep. Sleep early. All right, so that's why I say that, because we should understand all these things. We should know that, alhamdulillah, the things that come out of that technology, if they're beneficial, if it gets me halal food and I live far, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually, I'm getting good, hasanat, I'm getting good deeds by doing that. So, we want to understand it so we can use the best of it and stay away from the negative.